today's video I'm going to be following on from my Witchcraft 101 series, and I'm going to be talking about centering and grounding, which is an energetic technique which is used to bring awareness to your whole body, to center yourself and bring yourself back into alignment, as well as to reconnect you into the roots of the earth and to allow any negative or residual energies to disperse. And you can also allow the earth to transmute those energies for you and draw up a fresh nurturing energy into yourself that is going to fill you up again with positive energies. So there's lots to discuss with this topic, so get yourself a nice hot drink, settle back, relax and enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you are well and safe and looking after yourselves. So today I want to talk about centering and grounding. This is a conversation that is hotly debated in some areas of the community, but in other areas not spoken about so much, or when it is spoken about, it is indirectly referenced rather than actually delved into. For me, I see grounding and centering as a really integral, energetic practice that I feel is beneficial for every magical practitioner. I am coming at this from my perspective as a folk witch, as an animist practitioner with a spiritual approach to magic, with a number of other cosmologies and models sort of layered over and interspersed, but generally I'm quite an eclectic practitioner and obviously focus on quite wild rural magics that is local to me. So folk practitioner is probably the best way to define myself, although I don't like to use labels, but that is where I'm coming at this from. If you have a different opinion, I am perfectly open to hearing those and those suggestions and anything that you'd like to share down in the comments, but I will not tolerate trolling or any other kind of unhelpful or unpleasant comments. I will also say within this framework, there's not necessarily a right and wrong, because there are different ways, nuances and slight differences that certain practitioners will bring to their work, and that's really a beautiful thing. And I'm not here to suggest that if you've got a slightly different way of doing this, that your way is wrong. That is absolutely not the case. If it works for you, that's fantastic. This is just what I like to do, and this is where I'm coming at it from, so do bear that in mind as well. And it also is really valuable to listen to other people's opinions and perspectives on this topic, maybe to listen to some podcasts, to definitely read about it in books, and to just do your own research, really form your own opinion, and then also practice, because that is what is going to help you to understand what exactly works for you and what you'd rather leave behind, and you know, perhaps what just works for others but you decide isn't quite for you. That's how you begin to actually advance your practice. People are always talking about where's the advanced magic books, etc. And the truth is, a lot of it has to come from you, because you are following a certain lead, you are listening to downloads, you're listening to what is coming to you, and you're doing the research yourself. You're out there, you're finding books, you're finding papers, and you are following your own thread of your practice, and you're also practicing your practice. That is how you learn what works for you and how you understand when you really feel something. Whether or not you're able to visualize, there are ways around that which we can discuss. I do want to preface this as well by saying that I am eventually aiming to hopefully be able to do a video about a number of basics, where I will talk more about energetic work broadly, also where I will go into topics such as visualization more specifically, because I've talked about cleansing, then I talked about protection, and talked about different types of protections in a number of different videos. You really do need the energetic practices and layers there first, but this I think is probably something that people learn first in most Western magical traditions. Centering and grounding are certainly practices that many Wiccan traditions and covens teach, first of all, and it's also what is taught by a number of eclectic covens and traditions as well, from my understanding of it. Just before we start as well, just as an exercise, because I think it will be helpful with our understanding, I would like to think about these words and their definitions from a secular perspective, just to kind of get some clarity around the general meanings around these words and what tends to come to mind for a lot of people. So I've got some definitions here for centering, first of all. The word center originates from the Greek word kentron, It's with a K, and it means sharp point, stationary, point of a pair of compasses, which then led to the Latin centrum and then late Middle English centre. Centre, centering are defined together the action or process of placing something in the middle of something else. Within architecture, framing used to support an arch or dome while it is under construction. So that's really interesting, the idea of support there, and also the idea of placing something in the middle of something else to give it power and to give it that reinforcement. There's a lot of sporting references here. There's also centering occur mainly in or around. So for example, the textile industry was centered in Lancashire and Yorkshire. Have or cause to have a specified concern or theme. So the case centers around the couple's adopted children. So it ends up being a subject matter as well, which I think these are very, very interesting, because although these are secular ways to discuss the word center and the act of centering, it just sort of helps to pinpoint some of the meanings behind this. Okay, so if we think about the idea of placing something in the middle of something else and putting the focus on that thing, drawing something inward and having a specific concern about it. So that I think is very interesting. That's from the Oxford Dictionary. So the origin of grounding comes from the Germanic, the Dutch grond, German grund, which led to the Old English ground. So grounding as a noun, a basic training or instruction in a subject. So it's like a foundation. Every child needs a good grounding in science and technology, which comes from the verb ground. Prohibit or prevent something from happening or someone from doing something. So a parent might ground a child if they misbehave. With reference to a ship, run or to go aground rather than be blown up. Muller grounded his ship on a coral reef. To give something abstract a firm theoretical practical basis. So if we think of our energy as abstract, we can ground it into reality and make something real of it and give it form, maybe not physical form that we can see, but give it form that we can then shape and influence and exert our will on. To place something on the ground, to touch the ground with something. So again, you're talking about the earth, the ground beneath us. And then some more sporting references as well. So again, if you think about having a basis, a foundation, so something really fundamental, something that brings you back to basics, something that is going to be needed for the future, like a stable foundation, so it implies that there's some form of security there. It's also to keep something in one place and to stop it from moving around, and to literally place something on the ground, as in the ground beneath us. To my awareness as well, the word earthing has become a somewhat buzzword in New Age and spiritual communities. I think this is more of a modern occurrence, because I believe there was a documentary about earthing, which I haven't seen, which I would like to see. So if anyone's seen that, do let me know. The verb earthing, to connect an electrical device with the ground. So when you think about electricity and grounding the electricity, it makes it safe, doesn't it? It makes that energy safer, so it's not going to hurt people. It controls and confines somewhat. It also channels that electricity in a safe way that's also productive and efficient and useful. Cover the root and lower stem of a plant with heaped up earth. Stems can be earthed up when the plant is about 1 foot high. So that is with reference to a plant and keeping it in one place when it starts to get to a certain height so that it doesn't bend. Again, it's keeping it within a confined space. So there are a number of themes that I think are really interesting to consider. So these secular meanings actually do bear quite a lot of significance when we think about them in a spiritual context, because what we are doing is we're allowing ourselves to become really aware of our energetic bodies and the frequencies that are going on within our aura and the different layers of that, and allowing ourselves to be somewhat in, I don't necessarily love the word control, but to be managing of those energies and to be aware of every single little part, and also what is not ours, what maybe we've picked up from somebody else if we are empaths, and where we might be drifting off here, drifting off there. I mean, for me, whilst I'm quite a fiery and watery person astrologically, I also have some air significantly in my chart, and I'm quite an airy person as well. Like, I do float off, I can get anxious, my mind goes really fast, I'm on this, I'm on that, and I can be quite chaotic. Although I love order and I love stability, I have to ground myself quite frequently, because being earthed, being rooted, being grounded is really important for me personally, and for me to feel healthy. Spiritually, it is linked with the concept of meditation and the idea of how we can soothe our bodies and be calm in our surroundings. So if someone were completely new to spirituality and not really interested in some of the occult knowledge and wisdom that many of us are, but they wanted a practice, they could absolutely utilize a technique such as grounding. And I think that many professional therapists and medical consultants actually do use techniques similarly to support patients with certain conditions, to allow them to have some management of themselves, their bodies, and to feel safer. What that generally is about how being connected to the earth helps us feel safer, helps us to feel like there's ground beneath us, we're not going anywhere, that we are safe.
There's also that concept of rooting, and I really feel like next to the earth there is a sense of belonging there that is kind of innate to human beings, and I think that is because we are of the earth and we're meant to walk upon the earth. That is what we were designed for. And there's also a lot of scientific evidence that I'm sure a lot of you have already read to back up the fact that being in nature and communing and having bare feet on the earth and touching trees and being around trees is really positive for human beings. And then there's the technique of Shinrin Yoku, which is Japanese process of forest bathing, essentially, and you can do this in England. I actually wrote an article about this a few years ago for my previous job, where I wrote magazine articles for publications, and so I think it's really, really fascinating. There's so much research that proves how getting your hands dirty, gardening, connecting to the earth, playing in soil, having bare feet on the earth, etc., is so supportive for the body. And I think that's why we have these documentaries around earthing and getting back to nature, because that is, you know, really important for human beings and their health.
That safety is really, really important, especially if you are going to practice magic. I mean, it's important for everybody. So if you're someone who has anxiety, grounding and centering is so, so important, whether or not you're a spiritual person. From a spiritual perspective, being grounded and centered means that you are going to be aware of yourself as well as your surroundings, where your auric field ends and where other auric fields begin. In addition to you obviously having your own energetic body that you need to be aware of and to sense, you also have the energetic bodies of other things, people in your life, creatures, and the earth. Okay, so becoming really aware of that kind of magnetic pull, that auric field around everything else is really also key. And there's a number of different techniques that you can utilize in order to become more experienced with those kinds of techniques and understand that energy a little bit more. Having this awareness of the energies will support you when you want to put up personal shields if you're going out. It will also support you to channel your energy into spell work and to have really successful workings. Another reason why grounding and centering is really key for people who practice magic is because you want to utilize some of the energy you draw from the earth in your spell work, so that you don't deplete your own energy, your own life force. From a spiritual perspective as well, the reason why grounding and centering is so key is because this way you are so aware of yourself and your surroundings. You are able to discern what is yours, what is not yours, what is yours but perhaps is a bit sticky, is going to maybe interfere, something that has been going on around you, something that you just wish to cleanse yourself of. It's like a cleansing technique in itself. And what any practitioner may wish to do, for instance, if they come home from a long day at work, they are tired and they're feeling sluggish, they're feeling drained from the day, and also they're holding on to a few things in their brain. What they might wish to do is to have a physical cleanse in the shower, wash their hair, wash their body, and then have a spiritual cleanse, so to either use smoke cleansing or to use sound cleansing, which I've talked about in other videos. You may wish to ground and center, and then you also may wish to cleanse your space again, and then you can start to think about what comes next. So maybe some protection workings if you really are feeling that way, maybe a self-love working if that is something that you need in that moment, maybe a meditation, maybe just sleep, maybe you want to cozy up and read a lovely book or watch some TV, and that's perfectly fine. But these practices kind of go hand in hand. So cleansing, centering, grounding techniques do come together, they're sort of overlapping. And if you were going to go anywhere as well, again, you may wish to do all of those things and then protect yourself again. So do your centering, your grounding, and then your centering again, and to build up your shields before you go out again. And you might wish to get ready first if you're going out for dinner, say, after all of that. Neutralize yourself, get yourself to a space where you feel good again, bring in some good energy, bring in some good vibes, play some beautiful music, burn some incense as well, and just get yourself feeling like yourself again. Bring yourself back to center. That's what it's about, and being in that alignment, that space of alignment. And then from there, get yourself ready to go out, and then draw the energy again into your center, and then put up your shields like I talked about in that other video. So I've talked a lot already about the energetic stuff. I'm going to do another video about that, and I'm probably going to overlap a bit in these videos as well, so do bear with me with that. But let's just go straight into the practices now. So when I first learnt about the techniques of grounding and centering from a magical perspective, I realized that I was already doing that naturally as a young person anyway, because being outside was so important for me, and being with bare feet on the earth, etc. Not that I would, you know, run round the streets without shoes on, of course, but no, in my garden, you know, without shoes on, in the park. I grew up opposite a beautiful massive green space. It was a cul-de-sac, and me and my best friend used to play on this cul-de-sac for hours, and we used to have bare feet and stuff, and bare feet on the sand, you know, going to the seaside. It's when I felt the safest, the most together and centered and grounded. I mean, it's those words, right? It's difficult to kind of try to define something using the same word, but that's the words that you think of. But it's that safety, it's that rootedness, it's like coming home and being contained. And it, I guess, is comparable to the feeling that you get when you've done this practice, is comparable to sort of being in a safe cocoon, like a nest or an egg, or in your mother's womb. And it's a really, really beautiful thing to do and to practice. I think that one of the things that then helped me to get to another level was to realize that it's not just a process of breathing in and then breathing out and visualizing. Visualization comes into it, but it's not just a process of visualizing the energy within me draining out of me and transmuting and coming back in. It's a whole process where you have to sort of immerse yourself and go within yourself to sense the energies around you, the energetic sensing and energy manipulation, which again, this is why I'm going to do another video about it. How, you know, people sense that energy and whether they feel warmth or tingliness or that magnetic feel. I mean, this energetic ball thing, I've been doing this since I was a really little child, and this is something that is actually a legitimate magical technique where you can feel the energy. You know, I can feel it right there, and you expand it, and you can play with it, and you can mold it. This is energy sensing. This is an energy technique. And if you are an empathic person, it's quite likely you're already doing this stuff without even really being aware of it. So it's then becoming aware of your energetic body, how you move through your life, what is around you, okay? What are you holding on to, and what are you allowing to go out? Because as well as, if you are an empathic person, as well as picking up on other people's stuff, you're probably going to be projecting quite a lot of that out there, and that's not something people want to hear, but it's actually true. So that's another reason why doing your shadow work is really important, and that inner work is really, really important. It's really, really key to do that inner work and to know thyself, because if you don't, you are going to be projecting stuff on other people. It's not a case of you're a bad person because you're it's not, no. Leave all of that behind. It's not a value judgment or anything. It's not a virtue signaling kind of thing. It's not. It's just that we're all human beings. We all have our stuff. We're all carrying a load of stuff around with us. I know I'm going off topic here, but this is important to say because people don't talk about it, but we do. My daughter is currently about 20 months into the waiting list to be assessed for ASD on the autism spectrum, essentially. We experience a number of really challenging behaviours with our daughter at home, where she can be really violent and attack us, and it is a lot, okay? And I'm being really transparent here. I'm not going to go into this, but there have been a number of things that we've tried over the years, and I remember when we got this book a couple of years ago, and it's called The Big Bag of Worries. It's about managing anxiety, and so it's actually really, really good, I think, for anyone, like an adult or a child. I will find it and link it below, and it's essentially about a child who has this massive worry in their heart that they're carrying around, and I think it's a really lovely elderly neighbour who she meets, and this lady helps her to understand that what's in this big bag of worries, well, that's not yours, that's not yours, and that's not yours, and she helps her to understand all the worries and then to see them, to accept them, to give them love and send them off on their way, and they all go happily. And then there's one big one at the end that doesn't belong to the child either, it belongs to the child's parents, and like have to give it back and everything. There's just so much that is put upon us, and as you can imagine for children as well, like it's such a big world and there's such a lot on them. And so this is a really good book. I actually think it's a really good book for adults as well, because there's just so much, especially in this world that we're living in, and we are all out there projecting stuff. It doesn't matter how much work you're doing on yourself, the work never ends either. So let's just an aside about shadow work, but all I'm trying to say is that energy sensing, that energetic work is so, so vital, because what you want to do is you want to spend some time in breath work. I want to say meditation, but doing a breath work to sense your energetic body. And you can do like a body scan, become really aware of all areas of your body, and then to extend beyond. I often have this feeling, this might be familiar to some people, like right before I'm ready to astral travel, when you have the vibrational feelings, and I can sense I have other fingers than my actual fingers. I have more fingers. That sounds really strange, but I get this sometimes in waking life as well, and I have this feeling of like other fingers moving around my fingers, and I know what it is. It's an awareness of the tendrils and that energetic space and my auric field around my actual fingers. And it's really, really, it's wild when you start to like get into it and understand it and start to feel it more and more and more. And I think as well, the more you practice, the more you feel. So tendrils, cords, threads, I think of veins quite a lot. The blood running through my veins as almost those roots in themselves. So when they connect in, it's part of my blood and my circulatory system that is connected to the earth and those roots, and that is what is connecting in. You can visualize that, and almost, this might sound a bit weird and gross, but if you visualize yourself, the insides of yourself, and the way you can see all of your veins and the blood flow and your whole nervous system, everything, and the ways in which those threads of nerves, nerve endings, the circulatory system connects to all other parts, and then imagine yourself turned inside out, almost like in, you know, those horror films. You can kind of visualize that a little bit more, and that might help as well to sort of imagine it in that way. I'm gonna say you can take your time with this, you know, unless you are doing it in a pinch. But what I would say is, if you're new to this, take your time. Give yourself an hour maybe to try this out for the first time. If you can do that, an hour of undisturbed time. Do a little bit of breath work first, whatever you like to do. If you like to do box breathing, or if you like to do 3 seconds breathing in and then a pause and then 6 out, so you have that elongation of the breath. If you like to do somatic kind of breath work, so that you can empty your lungs of that breath and then allow yourself to release all of that breath, so it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system and allows you to get into that real like beautiful state of kind of like relaxation and bliss. That's kind of where you want to be. And then you can start to sort of sense your areas, your physical body, and then beyond. And then what you want to do is sense any pockets of energy that are not yours, anything that is lingering. Perhaps there was an argument yesterday or earlier today, something happened that was a bit meh at work, you know, you had a moment with one of your children or someone you care for, and you're just a little bit like meh about that, and you want to let that go for that moment so you can move on with your day. pick out where those are in your body. So if I have like a confrontation with my husband, I'll often feel it like right here in my gut, like in my solar plexus. If I have troublesome confrontations with friends, I'll often have like stuff going on up here. And so also if you work with the chakras, you can go that way. I'm not going to refer too much to the chakras within my videos, at least at the moment, because it's not necessarily part of my spiritual paradigm, although I do utilize them myself. But I can't say that I've ever trained with the chakras, and I know it's not part of my cultural heritage, so I'm not saying that you can't use them. I definitely use them. I'm just not going to talk about them too much because it's not my area of expertise. But I do use them to kind of refer to the centers of the body. But there are obviously, if you've done any work into chakras, you'll know there's a lot more than just the standard ones that people know in the New Age community anyway. But you can certainly use those in your own work. I'm just not going to talk too much about them here. But I tend to notice different areas of my body. Like if something happens with my daughter, I'll feel very tight here. Very, very tight in the heart space. And you can then gauge where these pieces are, and then you can start to bring them to a center. And I'd say your core is a really good place to start with this. So you sort of start to energetically push these little pockets of residual energy, this gunk you could call it, into the center of yourself. And then that's the centering part. And you might wish to do this independently of grounding, because you might be just about to start a spell and you might be gathering your energetic reserves and your will to make this spell work into your center so that you're ready to then push it out of your hands because you want to use your hands. Or you might be bringing it up here so you can push it out and breathe on your work, or like speak words of power. And that's really powerful. You can also, a technique that I learned in Reiki that I think I talked about in my shielding video, is putting your hand here to stop any residual energy. You can kind of stop any residual energy from going out of your head, because I think it's really interesting actually how the secular world understands things much through like a scientific, factual lens, but a lot of the science is also really related to the occult, spiritual stuff as well. You know how they say that you lose heat through your head? That's energy. So you want to be in a space where you're not losing so much of that if you're about to do spell work. So that might be an instance where you just do the grounding. But often, more often than not, I'm doing the centering with the grounding. And then I'm skipping ahead a bit here, but what I like to do is the centering first, then the grounding, and then the centering again, because what then you're doing is you might want to center, if you're about to then do spell work after you've centered, grounded, etc. straight away, you might want to gather that energy so that you can then use it, or you just might want to gather that energy as a life force to be within you if you're about to go out to do your work in the day. And so you might use some of that energy within you to push out some power to become a shield. But please, I do want to be really clear when I say this though, that you are not just pushing all of your energy out and letting it go out of you, because you are a living body, you're a living force. You're not just throwing all your energy out, because that's the way that you just completely drain yourself. So just to bear in mind that when you do put up your shields or wards, you're not putting all your energy into it, or if you do a spell, you're not putting all of your own energy into it. You're then utilizing some of the energy that you've gathered from the earth. Because if you are allowing any icky stuff that we talked about that you've gathered here in the centering process, if you're then going through the process of transmuting that with the earth, you are also asking the earth, if that's your paradigm, your worldview. I like to ask Mother Earth, Gaia, to transmute those energies. You may just wish to visualize it and have that understanding already that sacred reciprocity is there with you and the earth, and whatever works for you. But my understanding of it is that you're drawing up energy that has been recycled, transmuted from what you've sent through your roots, but also that you're gathering more energy, right? So you're building up that reserve so that you're ready to do what you need to do, so that you're not depleting your own energy, because that's really, really key. Again, more on the energy work in another video because it's going to be really long. So let's say we're at the point now where we've gathered those icky things that we've talked about and they're in our center, they're ready to go. So then we're already in quite a relaxed state. We want to be in a position where either our feet are on the floor, our hands are on the floor, our front of our body is on the floor, the back of our body is on the floor. Perhaps you might want to be with your bottom on the floor sitting by a tree trunk, or with your bottom on the floor sitting by a wall. If you're in an apartment high up, that doesn't matter. You don't need to be on earth. It's really lovely to try to do it. If you can go to a park or to a beach or to a woodland, if you can try to do it at some point on grass or on earth, soil, on sand, if you can, even if you can just do it on concrete, you know, in the middle of a park or on a park bench. To do it outside is a really, really great thing to do. But if you are just going to try this for the first time in your bedroom, for instance, on an evening, absolutely, just get as close to the ground as you can. I like to use my hands, and I think it's really, really beautiful sometimes to put your forehead to the earth, sometimes just lying on the earth. And if I'm in bed, I'll often be doing this like this, lying down, sometimes sitting up or lying flat, but sometimes I'll be like this, and I visualize it however it needs to be. But those tendrils that we talked about earlier, those tentacles or threads, I almost see them like threads, extensions of my fingers, of the energy, I visualize those from whatever part of my body is touching the floor. I visualize those penetrating into the earth, almost as if a shoot in reverse, so the way a shoot kind of pops up out of the earth, and it's got that really, really beautiful kind of fresh root thing. I visualize it the other way, and so you can literally visualize yourself as if you've got tree roots. I know this is really, really popular within the community, or you can visualize tendrils or tentacles or threads or just the energy like light or beams. I think the roots work for so many people because of that connection to trees and to earth, and obviously trees coming from the earth and the element of earth. I think that works really, really beautifully. Also, it really works so nicely to do this with a tree. You can do this with your hand on a tree and allow yourself to connect in with that tree's roots as well. That works really beautifully too. So there are a number of ways in which you can do this. If you struggle with visualization, one way you can do this is to narrate it for yourself. So you can write out a script and record it, record what you're going to do, almost like you record your own meditation. I've done this many times in the past and it's really, really helped me. You can also focus on the sensations rather than visualization. You can focus on other senses that you pick up on. So maybe you feel tingliness, maybe you feel warmth, maybe you feel a coolness. I often feel a coolness, and I visualize colors as well. So one thing that I do like to do, which I don't think you necessarily do need to do, I think I talked about this in my cleansing videos, because I do visualize light coming from the divine, because I do have a spiritual cosmology within my practice. I believe in spirit, I believe in the divine. I'm polytheist. I'd say probably hard polytheist because I believe in individual deities, but I also believe in a universal divinity, which these spirits, which these deities then come from. And there are almost, not hierarchies, because I don't like that idea, but there are sort of different subsects, I guess you could say, of that energy in different guises, in different forms. And so, but I do believe in a mass of energy, essentially. And I believe in earth, sky, land, sea, sky, that kind of Celtic paradigm cosmology, which I'll talk about in another video. But essentially, I do like to connect in with the divine, and this comes from above, and it is often a very, very pure, beautiful, bright white or blue light, sometimes golden, sometimes silver, like a shaft of light, really fast, just boom, and it is almost like lightning. And it often, my mind will go really clear, it will feel like mint, and I'll get this sort of fresh sensation, this cleansing sensation. I often do this if I am struggling to pull my energy. I allow that to kind of almost wash over me, and sort of in that wave of that light, it then sweeps through me and allows anything that I might have missed to just gather and go. That's a way that I love to do it really quickly. If you are in a pinch and you don't have time to get into this really, really meditative state and like really feel zen about it and just gather all your energy really, really like carefully, you can set the intention that there is that pure divine essence that will support you with this, and it just provides this power that just goes zoom, and you can just ask all that energy to just go. And it feels so powerful to do that as well. So try both ways. I get good results from both. It just depends on the situation, however you feel. So then I do love to do that visualization. I visualize myself as a tree, and often my back suddenly goes really, really straight. It doesn't just start at the feet and the roots go through it's like my whole body becomes the tree as well, which is really beautiful. And you can almost, it kind of goes like this. So your body is turning into a tree as the roots go down. The further your roots get, the more you become the tree. And it's like your mind is in several places at once because it's all happening. And it's all happening in your mind. That's what I mean when I say you basically just need yourself. You don't need the tools. So you do this work, you connect it in, and then you allow your roots to just deeply, deeply penetrate, and they get really dispersed. And you can almost imagine the roots getting as close to the center of the earth as you possibly can, and then they anchor in, and you can feel them go, and there's like a tug there. And once you feel that energetic, like, you feel that stability. I often think of this like anchoring. So I like to think of myself locking in place. I almost imagine myself like I am a piece of a puzzle, or you know, if you've got like a piece of a game or something, and so you've got a board and a plastic part needs to go in this part of the game, and there's like a hole for it, it's like a section for it, it's almost like a little slot it's designed to go into. It's like that. Once I get rooted like that, then I'm just like, and it's like a lock-in. I kind of feel it, and almost like I can feel the but I also then hear it, and it's like a proper like, right, I'm in, and it's not even like a, it's like a glunk, you know, like a real like glunk, like you're in it. Then you can feel like just yourself, you're just totally grounded, you're totally rooted in, and you can move and you can flex, but you've got that stability, you know, and you feel that safety there. And it's a space for you as well. It was meant for you, what is happening. So then you are rooted in, you feel that anchor, you're connected in, you're safe and rooted. Then you can start to send this energy through, the shoot. It's like your roots go down first and then you send that energy through. And what you do, what I like to do is, as I said, I ask Mother Earth, I ask Gaia to transmute these energies for me. And I usually say a short prayer. I haven't ever had a no. I have met some practitioners who don't like to do this because they believe that the earth is already polluted enough, so they just get from above. But I think I like to pull from above and below. I believe that the cyclical nature of it is really important. So I'm very aware that I need to do more to support the earth. I think it's really important to be aware of that sacred reciprocity. I don't think just saying, oh, I can't practice earthing, I can't ground into earth ever because the earth is already in so much peril and I'm just causing it more peril. I don't think that that really makes sense in my worldview, in my paradigm. That doesn't make sense to me, but I think it's very important to be aware of the perils of the planet that we are living on and the state it is in and the care and energy it needs, okay? So I will try my best to be more aware about something in my life. So try to fix another area of my life where I can do more in terms of recycling, where I can do more in terms of picking up litter and being present and being aware in that sense. So I do try to give back in those ways, and I make a note when it's important to do more of that if I feel this is a lot right now that I'm bringing. The earth is vast, beautiful, spiritual being that has this power to transmute these energies for us. So why should we be worried about putting that energy in? The thing that talking to these people who don't like to do it at all made me realize is just that I need to be really ecologically aware, environmentally aware. So that's all it brings for me. I still go ahead with the practice though, because this feels right for me. So I do make that prayer. I ask for that. Sometimes I will make an offering as well to the earth. Like I usually will pick up litter, as I said, we'll make an energetic offering of energy later in another point to the land spirits, etc. I ask the earth to transmute the energies, and then I visualize them and I feel them. I can sense it. I usually can see colors, so it's either like a cloudy gray, or it's a dark blue, or it's a green, and it will go through the roots. I can feel it now almost as I talk. It will go through the roots, and you can use that power from divinity if you want to sort of wash yourself. You can allow that light to kind of whoosh through you, and it takes anything else that's left behind. It's almost like if you take like one of those pills that's supposed to clear up your colon or whatever, you know, they flush your system. When you're talking about flushing your system out, it's a bit like that, I guess. In an energetic, spiritual way, I guess it's similar, but it's just allowing that energy that is not yours, that is residual, that is negative, whatever, that is not needed to be transmuted, to go through the roots and to peter off into wherever it needs to go. And I make the request that the energy is transmuted for me, and that I'm able to absorb some of that and some extra beautiful life force loving energy from Mother Earth. And when that comes back, it's usually a green colour or a golden colour or a bright orange colour, and it comes back into my body quite quickly, up through the roots, and then my tree is blossoming the other side, right? So depending on the season, it can be different kinds of trees. But you can see how far you can go with this, the visualization, but you can also get really far with the sensing. And again, though, you might wish to do this, but then if you're going out later, you don't want all of that energy to sort of be everywhere as you as this beautiful big tree, allowing people to come towards you and vent to you. So you can do this technique again where you just keep some of that energy in for yourself, and that's again where we get into the shielding. So you can see you can be really, really complex with this as well. We've then talked about that energy transmuting. I will also add, if you have something really negative, you feel that you are trying to cleanse yourself of some kind of curse or hex that you feel that you have been put under, or you've put yourself under something, or you've made a massive mistake and you really have a lot of heavy energy you're asking Earth to transmute, it can be really nice to ask Earth to transmute it and to send it somewhere else where it's going to benefit someone else. So as in transmute that energy and then give it back into a place where it is doing some good in someone else's life. So it's not necessarily coming back to you at all, but as a gift, once it's transmuted into something really beautiful, it can then provide energy elsewhere. So that's something that you can do as well. So when you draw back that energy, you might also wish to spend a bit of time playing with that energy as well, just to see if you can tell the difference between the energy that you reabsorbed as your own energy, the energy that you asked to be transmuted and then reabsorbed, and the energy that you absorbed from the earth. Because often I think there are slight differences in the way the energy moves. I feel like the energy that comes from the earth is almost faster in a way. It's almost brighter, clearer, and more potent. You can almost sense a difference, I think. So playing with the energies once you've brought them in as well is a really interesting thing to do. So the goal really is to get yourself back to center, quite literally, in terms of kind of being in a neutral space. So we talked about gathering all that icky stuff and centering, and then grounding, rooting down, requesting the earth to transmute those energies, and bringing back transmuted energies as well as more energetic support from the earth to augment your own energetic life force, so that you might then go ahead and utilize that within spell work, or that you might then fortify yourself with self-love practices or just your own needs in the day. But generally though, what we're talking about here is coming back to a place of neutrality about a lot of things. And I talk about, you know, this energy that comes back up being more positive or more, you know, aligned, more, again, centered, more aligned with your purpose. It's going to have more of a direct, in a positive, again, words way. But really what we're talking about is neutrality, because we're not talking about good and bad. We're not talking about polarities in that sense or dualities in that sense. We're talking about spectrum, a big cycle or a spiral of energy, and it's not good nor bad, okay? Because the earth is very, very beautiful and vast, as well as fierce and destructive in its nature, as is the sky, as the whole planet we live on. The cycles of nature are this way. So we're not talking about good and bad. What we're talking about is almost neutrality, okay? But that means that you're not holding on to any of those residual icky things that were distracting you, anything that was going on that you don't want to be distracting you from what your purpose is in this moment, whether it's to cook your kids' tea or to go into a really, really massive ritual that you've planned for months, or to go out, you know, have a party with your friends. Whatever it may be, it's so that you can do that from a neutral, I don't like this word either, but it's sort of a purer space. It's more of the purest version of your energetic being in that moment. But again, not good, not bad, just neutral. It's also really important to note that some people are naturally grounded more than others, especially if someone has a lot of earth in their astrological chart. If you understand Ayurveda, the Kapha dosha is known for being very earthy, slow, grounded, heavy, and sort of rooted in that way. It can be denser than the others, and then there's Pitta and Vata as well. And so you might be a mixture of a number of doshas. That's something I looked into a number of years ago. It's quite interesting if you've never looked into that. Obviously, again, not from my cultural tradition, so not something I'm going to do a video on necessarily, but if you're interested in it, do look into it. So some people are just naturally more grounded. I think my husband is naturally more grounded, and so he can be really good for me when I'm all floating off. He can really help me. to ground and center, and that's a really, really beautiful thing. So other people can be that for you if they are safe, you know, if they're safe places. So you can hold hands with someone like that, you know, obviously at their request you can ask to hold their hand and they can help to ground you and center you. Also other practices like eating, having sex, dancing, movement practices, massage, exercising, body brushing, scratching, things like this will get you into your body. Being in the earth, obviously meditating on the earth will ground you naturally. Eating, especially if you eat things that are fresh from the earth. If you to eat new potatoes from your own garden, you know, or fresh tomatoes that you've picked from the vine from your own garden, that kind of thing. If you are gardening, that's a really beautiful thing. Just getting your hands dirty in plants, working with herbs is a really, really beautiful grounding practice as well. Another thing that I've kind of alluded to in this video but I've not really explicitly mentioned is that there is energy coming from above as well if you would like to tap into that. So that is something you can also do. I have talked about obviously requesting that divinity to bring forth a kind of shower of light and golden forceful kind of wash of energy to support you with moving that energy through you if that's something you feel you need some support with. So sometimes I utilize that, sometimes I don't, and that is what I meant when I said I sort of alluded to it, but that is in itself an energetic presence from another source. So you can tap into that as well as a different source of power if that's something you wish to do. If you were to, I suppose you can't really ground that way, if you were to center yourself and then spread your tree branches, for lack of a better term, and your tendrils upwards towards the sky, it's more of an uplifting kind of feel. I don't mean this to be gatekeeping, but it's slightly more advanced, I'd say, because you want to be grounded at the same time in order to do that. I think it's quite important to be grounded before you do things like astral travel, and not that you're going to float off, and not that there's danger that you'll get lost and not come back to your body, because you will just go back into your body right when you don't want to, when you're practicing that kind of thing. So you don't need to worry about that. That's not what I mean, but it's just a good foundation to be in so that you have that safety there. You have like a way in and a way out, but that's stuff that we can go into when we talk about more astral work. But if you are connecting to energetic source above, I think that's slightly more advanced and requires a little bit more precision and requires that you're already grounded, really, in my personal perspective. There is that power there, but I don't really tap into it that much for that type of thing. That's more kind of an ecstatic kind of experience, more of a kind of heady, otherworldly, almost astral experience in itself. So, but there is that source there. If you wanted to, for instance, say drawing down the moon is a powerful example of how this is used quite frequently within magical circles. So drawing down the moon is a very popular ritual that is utilized a lot in Wiccan traditions, and essentially it's connecting to the power of the moon and drawing forth the energy from that moon, and you then can channel it through yourself and have that presence within yourself, and it's a really, really beautiful ritual to do. But again, as I said, you kind of need to be quite comfortable with practicing these grounding and centering techniques first. So that can be something we can talk about in another video if that's something that interests you. And there's just a lot of scope with it, really. You can go into lots of different directions in terms of visualization, in terms of sensing, and whatever happens for you. You know, you will find you have certain things that work for you, certain things that don't. You'll find little things that you're, oh, I never thought of that. And please, if you have any cool ideas or techniques or experiences, please put them down below, because I would love to hear and learn more about how people do this. When you ask, you make that request, usually it happens pretty quickly and you can visualize it. You can do this process in an hour, you can do this process in 5 minutes, you can do this process in 30 seconds, depending on how adept and au fait you are with the technique and how experienced you are really with doing it. But it is such a valuable thing to do. And then usually what I like to do after you do the grounding, then you center again. And that's why it's not really, although people say grounding and centering, it's more like centering, grounding, centering again, recentering. And you know, you could do this over and over again, basically, because I sometimes will ground several times a day, depending on the day and depending on the need, and in different ways sometimes as well. So this is just a little taster of some of the things that you can do with this and the ways in which you can then use that energy. But once it comes back in, you can then draw it to wherever you feel. If you need a bit of self-love, you can draw it into your heart space and you can utilize that for whatever it is you're about to do, if you're about to do some kind of heart space meditation, maybe you're doing some womb healing and you want to bring it into your heart to sit for a little bit before you then go ahead and do your womb healing, where you can really refocus some of that energy into your womb space. Or maybe you want to bring it into your core, into your central, I guess, solar plexus area, if we're using that terminology, to give yourself that inner strength. Maybe you want to bring it into your root to really emphasize that feeling of safety and rootedness and containedness. This is really a beautiful thing to do right before you go to bed as well. You know, I've had some really beautiful night's sleep after doing this practice. The other thing as well to consider is that we have this ongoing attachment to the earth, and that it doesn't just end. There is no cutting the cord as such, and actually there's a reason why I have an issue with cord cutting, and it is because I feel if the root is still there, then there's still something there. So I like to pull out the roots rather than cut cords, but that's for another video as well. But you have that connection to earth. And that's not to say that, you know, as people we don't go about untethered and we don't go and make mistakes, because we do, we certainly do. Even when you have been doing this work for a really long time and you're aware of yourself and you're doing your shadow work, you still make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a kind of safety net necessarily always, but it's just a really good practice to get into so that you can be more mindful of how you are showing up in your world and what you are bringing to your life and to other people. And so just to be aware of that connection from yourself to the earth and seeing yourself as a tree. There is a horror film called Annihilation with Natalie Portman, and it's horror, so it's not really got anything to do with what we're talking about, other than the fact that, I don't want to spoil it, but there are some quite beautiful connections to the planet, really, that some of these characters ends up having. As I said, it's horror. So if you're not a horror person, don't watch it. You know, when you watch it, you get a certain idea, a certain taste for the quality of some of the work that we're doing here, and some of the ways as well in which you can play with some of that energy, visualize some of it. You know, if you aren't great with visualization, watching that film, if you're okay with horror, might be a nice idea, because you can actually see some things. I'm not going to give it away if you've seen the movie. If you know, you know. But if you watch that film and you're not freaked out by horror, I think it could be really useful for people wanting to understand more about grounding and rooting, earthing kind of techniques, and also seeing yourself with that connection to the earth and to trees, and seeing yourself as that tree as well, and that kind of energetic connection there, that sort of kinship that is going on, although it's a horror. So I'm not saying this is what I want. Don't watch it and think, oh, Emily wants this. No. But yeah, there are some interesting scenes in that film that I think you might find helpful to watch if this is something you want to get more into, understand more about. So that's just something that I would suggest as well. And that was just something that came to me just now because I remembered the film and I remembered some of the scenes in it. What's it say about it? Story follows a group of explorers who enter the Shimmer, which is a mysterious quarantine zone of mutating plants and animals caused by an alien presence. Okay, so yeah, it's an alien film. So, but you'll see. And actually, having said that, aliens, and some of the other, you know, there's a number of films, but my husband's favourite film is Alien. Actually, I think it's Aliens, the second one. I think I prefer the first one. Sigourney Weaver is fire, but that film is, yeah, very clever. But all of those films really are great for this kind of thing as well. Again, horror's interesting. But yeah, really interesting to consider that kind of stuff. And as well, like I said before, about considering yourself from a biological perspective and the inner parts of you and how they look, and utilizing that in a visualization sense to connect in, to deepen that connection, to become more viscerally, sensorially aware of what is going on is really helpful as well. Considering those veins, threads, your actual blood veins, considering the vessels, the blood vessels, the capillaries, the nerve endings, the nervous system. If you look at some biology books or look at pictures online of diagrams of the body and like the layers of the different bodily systems, so the skeletal system and then your digestive system, your circulatory system, the nervous system, etc., and look at how they work together. I also talked a little bit about somatic breathwork at the start. This is a really interesting area to go into, and it is is the nervous system particularly, and the parasympathetic nervous system, and how doing somatic breath work and somatic exercises can support you with centering and grounding in a very quick way. So there are some exercises and techniques that I like to do. This is not something I've studied in depth, but it's something that I do on a daily basis. If you'd like me to talk more about that, I can do. But I have a number of techniques that I like to do. So there is a technique that I do which involves tilting your head on one side and looking with this eyeball up to the ceiling. You do that for about 40 seconds to a minute, and I have this visualization of like a drop of golden liquid like going blop, almost. It's like alchemy. Oh my gosh, it's alchemical. That's what it is. It's alchemical. So you feel this sort of like drop, and it's this alchemical feeling where your whole body sort of goes relaxed. And I guess it's a bit like taking CBD if you've ever done that, and I talked about that in my recent video as well. So I've really gone off topic a little bit here, but these are just some thoughts that are coming to me, things that also might be supportive for you. So if you're interested in looking into somatic breathwork and somatic exercises that you can do to support anxiety and other mental health things aside from the energetic work that we're talking about today, then do look into that. If you'd like me to do a video on it, let me know. This is a really, really lovely thing to do and to practice as much as you can, to get really, really comfortable with, and try different things. You know, let me know how you get on, if this is something that you've done in other ways. I'd love to hear how you do this. Please let me know if this is something you learn and you weren't keen on it, but you've heard something here that is a bit different that you'd like to try, then let me know. If this is something that's completely new to you and you're going to start practicing it, let me know how it goes. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear more about how you work with energy in your practice. So I hope that this has been helpful. Also, as I said, let me know in the comments if you have any experiences you'd like to share, any techniques you'd like to share, any wisdom, knowledge, gnosis, downloads, whatever it is. I'd love to hear. Obviously, keep it kind, respectful, clean, all of that stuff. YouTube and safe and open space, you know. So I really want to thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video, and if you did, please leave me a little lightning bolt. I've been talking about a lot of energetics. I'm feeling all fired up and yeah, it's been really fun. I am really, really pleased to be filming. It feels like I don't get to sit down as much as I would like to and film, so it's kind of a treat for me when I do, although my throat always hurts at the end. So I will say thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for getting me to 5,000 subscribers. If you liked the video, please click the thumbs up button, share it with anyone who you think this would be valuable for or who it would serve. Subscribe if you haven't already, click the little bell notification, because that's how you will get notified when I create and upload videos like this. I've noticed some people get unsubscribed, so just check to see if you are subscribed, because you might have been unsubscribed, because I know that that's happened to me for people I follow a number of times. Like, it's so frustrating as well. There are some people I watch their videos religiously and they just never appear on my feed, and I'm like, you know that I like this person, I watch every video, but why aren't you bringing them up on my feed? I have all my notifications on. If you've subscribed, you've hit the bell notification, you've put to receive all notifications as well, because you can now select to just receive some, or you can select to receive them all. Even if you've got that on, you won't necessarily receive it. So yeah, the algorithm is doing its own funny thing. I'm just gonna let it be what it's gonna be, but I'm really pleased to have been able to do this, and I really hope it serves. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you've got any video ideas or suggestions, or if you just want to chat down below. I'd love to see that too, and I will do my best to get back to the comments as soon as I can. If you'd like to support me in other ways as well, I have an Instagram page where I'm more active more frequently. I have a Patreon with 2 tiers. The first tier is a support level that has some previous moon work and shadow work in it, as well as tarot spreads and Book of Shadows pages occasionally and things like that. And then there's the stars and the moon tier, which is the second tier, which features my new and full moon forecasts every month, where I provide information about all the aspects, the energies, the themes, how you can work with certain challenging aspects, and how you can work with some more beneficial aspects if that's what you wish to do. Planetary magic, lots and lots of shadow work with lots and lots of journal prompts and juicy stuff to get into, and things that you can delve into for inner work. With the full moons, I talk about the folklore as well, which is really, really handy. Practices and rituals and spells and magic that you can get into for that particular lunation, as well as herbs and crystals to work with, and then a custom tarot spread at the end with a PDF. And I also have started to do the copy on the actual Patreon page as well as a download of the PDF. So you can download that and print that off, as well as a PDF of the tarot spread as well, so you can take it with you. You can do this work for the week leading up to and the week after. And you can also, with the shadow work, you can take those prompts as well as the prompts from the tarot spread. You can take them and journal with them and continue to work with them. You don't have to do them just for that, but the work really centers around the themes that are going on with the lunation, with whatever season we're in, wherever the moon is as well. But it also, every single time we have a lunation, the following year, it's very different to the previous because there'll be different things happening. So this Pisces full moon that we've just experienced when I'm filming this was very different to the last Pisces full moon because we had the sun separating from an opposition that was an exact opposition to Saturn, and Saturn was conjunct within about 4 degrees, I believe, that full moon in Pisces. So it was a very sobering, more austere, more get responsible, let's get really, really aware. It was like reality check. It was like, let's just checkpoint this and get really, really, really aware. And you know, Mercury, although it was opposing in Virgo, that Saturn, I really felt like Mercury and Saturn were in this really beautiful communicative dance, because that's what the opposition does. It gives that opportunity for a conversation, a question, and a problem solving, which is really beautiful. So as you can see, they go into quite a lot of depth. Anywho, I just wanted to explain there's quite a lot of nuance there with the different lunations, and this is why it's really, really beautiful if you want to dive deeper into your work with the moon and to understand more about the planets and how they're working as we move through the seasons and we move through the zodiac. Then you can do this work. So I absolutely love doing those. I put my heart and soul into those. I decided to create a second tier because I was putting so much energy and time into it, and these forecasts and shadow work books are now about 25 pages. They go very, very deep, and you can continue with the work within them for a while. And if you subscribe, you can also see how the themes continue and how the planets are in this dance. It's really beautiful. So that is on the stars and the moon. If you wish to subscribe over there, you can click over to Patreon and do that. Or if you'd just like to support, you can click over to that first tier. I usually provide a summary of the new and full moons over that as well, so you can get a little taster. I also have a buy me a coffee page down below. There's the super thanks within YouTube, but I do believe YouTube gets some of that. So I also have a direct PayPal link if you'd like to send me a donation, and I would just like to extend so much gratitude to my Patreons, but also to the people who have donated via those other channels, because such kind messages and support, and it's really just such a beautiful, kind gesture to show your energetic appreciation for the work that I'm putting in, and just your support and your love means so much to me. I just want to say thank you to you, and you know who you are, those people. Thank you again so much for joining me. Even if you aren't able to join on Patreon, liking, the sharing, the subscribing, the comments down below, they mean the world to me, and they're why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this, okay? So I hope this has been of service. I hope that it's been fun and useful. I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it is you're doing. Go forth, be magical, have a beautiful, blessed day. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. All right. Mwah. Many blessings. Bye.